All right, hello and welcome to a Stampscapes Live coming to you from a no longer raining but very much rain-soaked Southern California, I guess entire California area. Um, I've been working on a lot of digital cleanups of some 19th century engravings, looking at everything zoomed in about, I don't know, probably 500% and cleaning up like minute little areas, that are 1/8 of an inch square or something like that. And I needed to do some stamping just to, I don't know, do something different for a little bit of time before I get back to that. And I thought I would do some. They're just little exercises. I could have just stamped out some stamp sketches or something like that, but I come across a gazillion stamp sketches that I've done in demonstrations, maybe here on the channel doing a lot of stamp sketches using existing imagery, or just doing some examples at maybe conventions, showing people how to utilize some stamps they were picking up. And I don't know, I have just a gigantic stack of them here. So one of the things that I thought I would do is to finish some of them off. Some of these are a little bit further along than I thought they were, so, I don't know. There's a lot of scenes in there. Hello, Linda B. Good to see you. I felt like jumping on here, Linda. Yeah, though it's almost like, well, for us, it's almost like midnight, right? But I needed to get my hands in some ink here, and I thought, what better way to do it when I started looking at these than to do some lighting, basic lighting here. Okay, so one of the things I was thinking about was I was looking at one of my scenes here. This one here, done with the art foamies recently, and this composition right here is really reminiscent of this. Hello, Laura D. Good to see you. Yeah, I couldn't wait to get back on myself. This scene right here, this composition really reminded me of this article that I did for an online website, web page, I guess. It was a stamping page. I forget what it was called now. But the article was called "The Value of Value." 2:40. We need to we'll get the show on the road here for you quickly, Laura. It'll be a quick one, unless you're up usually until much later. But the value of value goes into scenic lighting, and it just, reiterates this idea of the different areas or objects and having multiple values in each either object or zone or both. Okay, so yeah, Linda, we've got a lot of these sketches here that we might as well finish them off, and at some point in time. Otherwise, just going to keep piling up here. Okay, so in doing the stamp sketches, they're just all in monochromatic. If I was doing these in color, I might have incorporated color into the impressions, but this is just another way to work here and just creating grayscale kind of environments right here. Just, stamping everything out in black, basically. And then you can tone it in with grayscale and then tint them with colors. You can go into it with color. But, normally if this was going to be a sunny day, high noon or something like that, I wouldn't have stamped out my clouds in black. I would do them in probably a light blue or something like that, or a medium tone blue. So let's get on with the show here. I have re-inked my two grayscale gray pads here. For some reason I have two grays here, but let's see. I also need my black pad, wherever that is. Here we go. So just dye-based ink grayscale. Okay, so Linda, you were asking me how I taught classes. This is the first thing I have them do in the second class is just grayscale. But all they used was black ink. They don't go into the grays here, okay? And that really gets them to utilize their black pad to achieve all of the different shades of gray out of it like that, okay? A lot of people love that technique too. And it's after typically they do the first class, which is all about color. Okay, so on something like this, we have three trees here. So the trees I'm going to probably address, fairly similarly, in a similar fashion in terms of lighting direction, okay? So I think I'm going to have some lighting coming down this way and illuminating this little area. Okay, so that is different than treating this as kind of more flat objects, okay? So when people like beginning stampers, they'll see these, and that's a fine way to work too. They can approach things as if things are being, say, front lit from here into the scene, okay? It tends to give things a little bit more of a flat look though, than have the incorporation of kind of light direction. But here's the thing. Okay, so if they're just approaching this, they're typically coloring all these in a uniform value of brown. They might bring in different colors of brown or something like that for your trees. But this area down here, it would be all colored in uniformly with a green or something like that, okay? And what that does is if it's the same value from top to bottom, it flattens out the scene and it doesn't look as deep, like this is closer and this is farther away, or something of that sort, or the lighting is just hitting it completely uniform. So, okay, so what I do in my classes is I just have them, they would typically have kind of got the basics on lighting down in the first class. I just tell them basically, you want to keep some light areas in all of your components and areas right down here. So in this little area down here, you're going to vary it and have it light and dark within that space, okay? So what that, that being said, what that looks like in terms of an application, okay? So in here we have grass, trees, and this area of negative space within there, okay? So in each one of these three areas, we're going to have both light and darker. It doesn't have to be light and, white and black or something like that, but we'll have variation within that space, okay? So let's go with these trees. And it doesn't, everything is going to be like white and gray. It just, darker and lighter, whatever it ends up being, okay? So it kind of just teaches people to look at things with a little bit more of a kind of a varied perception on objects in space, okay? So they're kind of keeping a conscious effort of the retention of light, basically. So in other words, they're just not coloring everything out, to really simplify things. Don't color everything uniformly, okay? So in something like this, it's no harder of an assignment than just simply doing what I just did there in like 60, I don't know, whatever it was, two minutes maybe, to get this grayscale down here, okay? So on something like this, now you have this little area of illumination here. That's a little bit lighter there too. It's lighter here than up here, and on these trees, it's a little bit lighter on the right-hand sides of them than on the left-hand side. All right, so three objects that include a darker and lighter area. This grass area, which is another, significant portion of this piece, forest floor or whatever. There's a lighter area in there and a little bit of a darker area. And up here, same thing, a little bit lighter. Now, sometimes maybe the lighter area might be all the way up here and a little bit darker up here or something like that. So it's whatever you want it to be. And, if you're teaching a class, Linda, and if people do that, then, then they get a passing grade, an A. And if it's all filled up like this, when they get through, to the end of the card, then let's not give them an F. Let's have them do a makeup. They'll do a makeup card. Okay, now here's the thing about this. The one thing that's fun about this whole type of concept here is, oh my gosh, I grayed out everything. I got ahead of myself, okay? Well, then just, when they get to the darker tones, use those ones to vary it. You know what I mean? So it'll still be darker and lighter. It just won't be white and darker because it'll be gray in the lightest areas right there. So, so there you go. It's a later time of day. The more you fill in here, okay. So I'm just doing this in grayscale just to really push this whole idea forward in a very simple way. And this is what I always recommend to people that they do at some point in time. And even for me, it's just an exercise is to do some grayscale things to just really fine tune your kind of sensibilities in terms of your sensitivity towards lighting there. Hello, Kathy. It's a hot evening here in Australia. I was just looking at some Australian weather information. I was just kind of curious. I had a customer in, I think it was I think it's in Queensland. I think there was this place called Mackay. I don't know. I was talking with another viewer of the channel there. I don't know. She might jump on here, but Linda D. And she was just talking about some flooding, and I was just kind of curious where there was some flooding from a fellow stampscaper that happened. I think it was the city of Mackay, if that's what it was, back in 2007, I think it was. So I don't know. The reason why that all came up was I sent out a newsletter, and I think I just titled it. My intro was "Hello from a rainy California, Southern California, or California." Okay, so anyways, this is getting toned in here. So you can kind of see the lighting developing right here, and it can develop in a very fast way here. Yeah, hello, Tina. Good to see you. But I am just glad, speaking of weather, that California is getting some rain. I feared it was going to be another couple years of extreme drought, but we're getting a little bit of a reprieve. But unfortunately, it's weather extremes again, where there's some really bad flooding, and while these reservoirs are getting filled up in a hurry from historic lows. I know that's that's not something people want to, are really thinking about if they're, if they were evacuating their entire bottom story of their houses, up to the ceiling in water and mud. But, like I said, we definitely needed the rain. All right, so there's your lighting right there, okay? There's your scenic lighting. Okay, now if you're doing this in color, you just do it in color. Let's say your trees are brown or something like that, then, you're hitting it with your lighter browns and your darker browns in the darker areas. But this is where, grayscale really is an excellent idea to... kind of practice, and not only to develop your sensitivities towards lighting, but just also to, reinforce it once in a while. When I do these, I feel different when I'm coming out of it. I have a higher sensitivity towards just that. It's really the retention of light and seeing things develop. But when you're working in grayscale, it could be in any tone. You can do this all in blues or something like that, in navy blue, and then just tone in with blue tones or something like that. But, grayscale is a good way to do it. It's just very quick and everyone has black ink. I'm working with gray inks here just to kind of get a little bit more of a range in values. And there's different types of grays too. Sometimes there's cool grays and warm grays. And then when you do this too, you can also tint it with color, or you can come into it with colored pencil or something like that. It's not going to look the same as if you didn't add in all that grayscale lighting and toning in there. But it looks pretty cool though. It's akin to like photo tinting, old-fashioned photo tinting, of black and white imagery with, art or photo tints. I forget what they were called, those photo paints, but they were just really light shades of your primary colors to, colorize your photography. And that was pretty cool. I never did it, but I've seen it out there. And that's what it feels like. Like, for example, sometimes I just don't want to just do grayscale. So I'll add a kind of a bluish tint to this, or a warm colored tint with a distress ink or something like that to give it a little bit more of a sepia-ish tone. I think the London Fog one is a little bit more of a cooler tone gray. It's not really so much neutral. The Marvy is more of a neutral gray, but I think that Memento is a little bit cool because this has a little bit of a cool tinge to it. But you can add a warm tinge to it too. Hello, Pat. Hey, Pat, you're on. How's it going with that internet connection there? Now, you're the Pat that I just wrote to, right? I don't remember seeing you on here before. I was just writing to Pat. I never knew how many videos I had because I couldn't find that information anywhere. But I dug deeper in the YouTube analytics, and this will be the 1600th and what did I say? 1661st video. And I don't know, whatever, calculated. So that would be almost like doing a video a day every day for 4.5 years. I knew it was over 1,000. I just wasn't quite sure how many after that. I don't know. Pretty shocked. And some of those videos are like 3 hours. They're like the Lord of the Rings director's cut edition, for the creation of one guard. Not quite a whatever $300 million production. but a half-page glossy cardstock scene. All right, so anyways, this is almost it right here. Being that the stamp sketches were already done right here. Talk about some basics here, Pat. This is your lighting right here. I think it's fairly dynamic lighting. 3 inks. I mean, you can achieve this also in just your using black. And that's what I always have my students do, just so they can get a really good hold and command of using darker tones, but to utilize them at full strength down to, very light values of their existing inks, so that whenever they go to, their darker range of inks or even lighter ranges of inks, they're utilizing them to the full advantage of all of their potential in terms of the values that you can achieve from them, right? A lot of people, you know what I mean? If you're doing certain types of coloring where it's really flat, then you're not doing that. You're just utilizing it in its full strength. But with every ink out there, when you utilize it when you're coloring in like this and sponging, you can really, I was just about to say you're going for kind of a full range, not necessarily, but you can go for a full range of values that are potential from that one existing hue, which really expands on the visual vocabulary of all of your media out there. It's not just for dye-based inks, of course, either. You do that with colored pencils, but I don't think people are thinking about that a lot of times when it comes to liquid media. With colored pencils, they know, to draw lighter and harder, you're going to get different values out of it. But sometimes with liquid inks, sometimes they're thinking about things like, okay, I want to do grass, okay, for example, and they're looking for that ink, that one pad that looks like a grass green, and coloring it that way. Which, I mean, people can do. You know what I mean? It's certainly something that is very common and looks fine to me, but I don't know. You can just get so much more exponentially larger of a range of values by utilizing them in their weaker and stronger states. So, anyway, there is that right there. So, I don't know if it's done, but okay. So, if you just joined in, what I was talking about in doing these pieces tonight, I'm just working on some grayscale things. So here's an area right here. It's the negative space in between the trees. That's like considered one area, right? It's like the background. We have these trees here, and that's a second area, and then this grassy area is a third area, at least in terms of this piece right here. So what you have in here is a range of values, lighter and darker areas on each one of these components right here, lighter and darker areas of that area, and lighter and darker down here. And that's the one difference between just coloring and lighting, okay? In one way, if you're just thinking of coloring, oftentimes it's uniform applications of color or tone or whatever, or shade. If you're toning and coloring, but you're lighting at the same time, you're just coloring less. So you don't color in the trees fully. You don't color in this area fully, and you don't color in this area fully. You know what I mean? You're retaining lighter areas. So sometimes people see this as it's a more kind of complicated, I wouldn't say complicated, it's a more complex way of looking at things. But in actuality, though, it's less work when you're not applying everything uniformly. You're leaving some areas a little bit more bare, is what you're doing. So that's what lighting is right there. So sometimes when people start doing grass in here or something like that, and they get into their darker tones, what I've always heard through the years is, I don't have a problem with that first color, but it's keeping that light because they just want to keep lighting it in. And what I know what that is when that's happening, when people are coloring like this, they're thinking about one little area like this and not how it relates to the overall piece. So they start coloring in here, and they're seeing that as this grassy area right here, and then they start working on this tree and this tree, and they're thinking about these things, these objects and areas apart from the whole. So when you start doing coloring like this, the thing that you want to do is you want to get an overall look of it. You're zoomed in like this, focusing like, oh my gosh, that stayed pretty well focused like that. It's always going out of focus. But then you want to take a good overall look at it and see how adding colors, whatever, are affecting the overall appearance of the piece in general here. Okay, so anyways, hello everyone. Let's see who joined in here. Did I say hi, Tina? It's 1:48 for Tina. 11:12:1. So Central Standard Time for Tina. Hello, Kathy. Some art foamies. They are on the way to Kathy. I can't wait to use them after my eye surgeries. A quick recovery to you on that surgery, Kathy, whenever you're having that. The art foamies are a large component, so maybe that that bodes well for the recovery. You know what I mean? They're nice, bold impressions. You can work large on that one, and you don't need to see clearly for that one, so you don't need to wait for that. You know, like detailed types of uh, whatever sensibilities within like a, you know, like a quarter page card or something like that. Oh, well, good to see you, Pat. Pat, I thought you couldn't join on these. I hope you're not. Okay, let's get moving here. I don't want to use up Pat's bandwidth here. Okay, so let's take a look and see, you know, what some of these lighting basics are. Okay, now this one right here. What, you know, where do you keep areas of light on something like this right here? Okay, there's this big open area right here. It's not really. There's not, you know, a huge amount of kind of designated space in here. Um, so what we're going to do here is, this is an area of water right here. And then, of course, we have our rocks here, okay? And our lakeside cove large, it's just used instead of, it's the same thing right here. Oh, I guess this was a lakeside cove demonstration right here, where I just used it as a lake here, of course, and then you don't color in the reflections, and then I just stamped the grassy area in here. I think this was the second video I did. It's variations in imagery using portions of it, and this is where it's just not used whole like that, but it's used on the sides like this to make this little I don't know, like a chain of islands or something like that. Okay, but let's take a look at this right here, and let's go over that simple types of lighting, types of considerations, and how you could approach this. Now remember, if we're doing this in colors, you can do it in colors too. I'm just doing this all in grayscale to really punch that aspect of it across very quickly, and that's what grayscale can do for your. And like I said, your sensibilities towards color, I think, get so much more kind of acute in terms of the different values of things when you do work in grayscale. They have, that's what everyone does in art school. Your beginning like drawing classes are all, you know, it's graphite, charcoal. It's black and white grayscale stuff. Beginning illustration, it was all grayscale in the, you know, entire first semester. So I don't know. You don't have to think about things like temperature, intensity, hue when it comes to that. You're kind of focused in on value, you know, light and dark. Okay, so anyways, so what we're going to do is we're just going to vary this body of water. Now, one of the more natural areas to keep illuminated is if you have a little subject matter focal point in your piece. I would keep those illuminated, okay? So think about it like a stage, you know, and you want to throw the spotlight down on those types of little images like that, okay? All right, so let's go like this. I'm toning in. Now, I like to tone in around the base of my rocks too, so I'm going to tone in here. I have a little bit of, you know, gray and black on this. I'm just going to keep using this one paper towel here. Okay. But see, I mean, we almost have our complete lighting scheme here already, okay? Now, I mean, I didn't really strategize. I just varied it, okay? The one area that I wanted to keep light was right here. Okay, and I'm just coming in here, just random. So, see, I'm coming in this way right here, and then when I come in from this way, I'm coming in between there, like that. I usually don't come like that if it's in like a body of water, so I kind of stagger it usually. All right, but let's go like that a little bit, and So on these pieces like this, I don't know, grayscale. Some people really like grayscale. I've had people in my classes where I taught them, beginning Stampscapes. Okay, no, in beginning Stampscapes, I don't have them doing grayscale like it was like an art school or something like that. It would be maybe if I was doing some kind of, you know, 1 week course or something like that, like a university or something like that, maybe I would start them off in grayscale or something like that. But I always start people off in color because people like color. But I have gotten them into my second class where we did this as the first one. And, you can see these things come together really fast. I mean, some people cranking out like 5, scenes in that first, 35, 40 minutes or something like that. Some say, oh, hey, I like the grayscale better, But then I show them how to use color strategically after that too, for depth. But, these are very quick like this. Okay, so let's take a look at the objects here. We only had the Lakeside Cove, large, and this body of water as kind of the different objects. But you can see, even in this little cove right here, I've kept a little rock a little bit light like that, but the rest of it is, toned over. Okay, now if I accidentally tone that one out, it's not any big deal. But see this rock right here on this one? It's a little bit lighter, and the rest of it's a little bit darker, okay? This one right here, a little bit lighter, a little bit darker over here. But here's where this whole body of water varies. It goes from dark, and it's a little bit lighter, darker, coming in this way. This is lighter right underneath there. Darker because I streaked in like this, okay? And then you can see where I streaked down here, so it goes darker, lighter, darker, lighter, darker, lighter right here because that's my focal point and spotlit area. So let's just go into the black again. And just to really push that idea a little bit further. Okay, so you can see your grayscale in here, okay? Really easy, and this also it's a really good exercise for people too, because they're able to, when they're doing these pieces like this, they're not toning in like this and getting a hard edge like that, because if you do, you're going to get that right into your light areas. So it gets them to do more of this sweeping motion like this, right? And see how it's going from darker to lighter like that, and that's all I'm doing here. Okay. And if you want to really build it up there, then you just kind of tap it like that, okay? So, again, if this is a blue-toned, high noon scene, maybe it doesn't get that dark. Maybe it's going through, I don't know, a couple different values of blue or something like that. So maybe in this area you have this blue going in here, or whatever, Memento Summer Sky or something like that. Maybe the darker areas are just this tone out here, okay? But you can really see the impact of lighting in here and just creating varied lighting. It's what makes your water types of imagery kind of shimmer a little bit more when you're utilizing values for your strategic advantage. But it just means also in terms of an application process, you're not coloring as much because you're not filling up this whole area with a uniform application of color. You're kind of going in here with your lighter tones, and then when you get into your darker tones, you're just coloring out here. So you're holding back, for strategic advantage in terms of, the visual variety of your value range. So again, that's where, if you're teaching stamping or something like that, let's say you're teaching scenic stamping out there to people that haven't done that before, that's what you're getting people to do. So when I'm teaching people coloring, a lot of times what I'm really doing is I'm teaching them the restraint of too much color for the sake of lighting. So if you're working on a white piece of paper, you're not adding light into a scene. You're defining it through the use of a smaller application of color or media, whatever. It doesn't have to be inks. It could be colored pencils in specific areas like that. So it's just the retention of lighter areas. Okay, so that's, you can see that right here, how that looks right here so far. I mean, these go really fast. You know, Linda B was just mentioned, if you just joined on, she was saying, hey, she's got a ton of stamp sketches sitting around. I mean, this is where you can crank out, you know, these grayscale pieces really fast. So, you know, maybe you're not so much, you know, everyone says, hey, Kevin, you run me a Bob Ross of stamping or something like that. Maybe instead of doing Bob Ross, you're doing Ansel Adams like that, you know. It's just, you know, it's black and white stuff instead of color. Or who's that artist, the painter of light, you know, where everything's like super colorful. Okay, so here, let's take a look at this one right here. We have clouds as a certain area, mountain, rocks, and meadow. Okay, now the meadow represents, you know, a decent amount of distance between distant, you know, meadow and forward meadow, but for the most part, it's just going to be light on the inside here because there's a little subject matter right here. So we want lights and darks in our cloud, lights and darks on our mountain, on our rocks, and in our meadow. Okay, it's really literally nothing more than doing something like that. Okay, now I'm just starting off, if you just joined into, I'm just starting off with gray here. I mean, you can do it with just all your black ink too, but I'll show you how fast this goes right here in depicting lighting, okay? So instead of coloring in my entire mountain with gray. Okay, then you say mountains are gray or something like that. No, you just leave some of it light like that. Here's my rocks right here. I want to leave some of those rocks a little bit lighter. Okay, so I'm adding a little bit of shadow underneath. Look at what I'm working with here too, okay? It's this tattered piece of paper towel, okay? So you can do it with anything. You know, if I can do it with this paper towel, tattered paper towel, you can do it with whatever. You know, much better applicator, although these are pretty effective like this, okay? But look at this right here. Okay, now if I wasn't blabbing away talking like that, I don't know, would that have taken even 60 seconds? Okay, but it's just holding back, it's just restraining, you know what I mean? Don't go in here all the way, just kind of, you can go like this and just bring a little bit of tone around it like that. But look at this lighting now. So we've created different colors in here. Now, naturally using different colors in different areas. Greens down here for the grasses, whatever, gray rocks right there in the foreground or brown. Gray for all that granite up there, and blue clouds or something like that. You know, we're talking about like 3 different color schemes for 3 different areas like that. You know, that's going to take a little bit longer, you know, because you're switching, you know, your applicators and inks. But just in terms of a lighting assignment, you know, that's as, you know, fast or as, you know, it can possibly go, I think, in terms of kind of an overall type of lighting experience here. Now, one of the things, like I said, that I'm doing too is I'm kind of taking some areas in like this. When I'm on my perimeters like this, I'm going a little bit with a harder kind of application. And then when I go in, I'm going less. So what it might look like here, I'll just do it on the back of this, is it looks like this in terms of an application like this, okay? Like down in my meadow area, and then let's say those rocks are in here, it looks like this, okay? And then up in my skies, it's kind of like this. Now, I have a Stampscapes easy lighting video, and this also comes into play like this. So a lot of times I have like a light source up in my sky area. It doesn't have to be anything as formal as like a moon or a sun or something like that, but light typically comes from the sky. So can you see this little area of light like that? And then there's a little area of light down here too. This is another way you can think about it then in terms of, okay, there's clouds here, a mountain here, rocks here, and grass here. You can think about just having an area that's lighter up here and lighter down here. Now, the why isn't it just one big area of light? It's because you're coming across this area and dividing the two. So now that represents a light source, and that's reflected light. Rather than one big spotlight on the whole thing, you just come across it like that. And that's this little shape right here is what I show in Stampscapes Easy Lighting. If you have an area that's kind of, you vignette this whole area around it, it's kind of darker around the perimeter, and then depending on what subject matter you have in here, and you just divide it off with, you know, a separation somewhere in here like this, like that. Can you see that right here now? If you're doing quarter page cards, you can use this lighting scheme 95% of your scenes, and it will be perfectly applicable to everything that you do. Now, sometimes, you know, you might have a lake up here and there's a moon up here. So instead of this dividing line being in the middle of the page, it might be up here. Or you can have it, you know, several times through. It could be, see, I'm kind of coming across in here a little bit in this mountain just to kind of vary it somewhat. So it goes from a little bit darker up here, lighter, darker, lighter, darker. Okay, so what that looks like is this. Darker, you know, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, like that, okay? And that's it. You can do that, like I said, literally. It would work for, on this size format right here. I mean, I don't know if it's 98%. It's got to be 9 out of 10 scenes, though. And it would be absolutely fine, you know, in terms of really depicting really great scenic lighting in there. Let's go to black on this one. I really like how these things look, too, in grayscale. Like I said, a lot of people don't like, you know what I mean? They're, you know, color's an emotional thing more than something like this, but these are really fantastic exercises, and you can add color to grayscale after you do it in. It you know, it looks different than had you not added all that gray down there, like I said before, but you can add tone to these pieces right here. Okay, so adding this in, I'm just going with black now. I'm staying a little bit more perimeter oriented, but you see I'm kind of really pushing this idea of this scenic lighting. I don't know, whatever, 3 extra values and moving into that, you know, darker tinge. It looks a little bit more dramatic that way. Not that you have to go for drama. You know, drama is kind of created by contrasts. You can go for something much more serene or something like that, when it's more kind of a narrower range of values like that too. It looks like it's like going out on a foggy day or something like that. You know, there's everything, there's this illumination throughout the air or whatnot, and that I don't know, it creates a certain kind of feeling. Okay, so in here, I don't know if here, let me show you this too. Because can you see this right in here? This is a little bit, these are getting in the way. Imagine these trees weren't here, but can you see this where it's light up here in the background? Separated by this line here. It's darker right here and lighter right here. So this is like this big area of light. And here's a smaller area of light. So what this looks like, it's right down here. So this is like down here. And it looks like this in terms of the lighting scheme, okay? It looks somewhat like this. Now this is a real simplified version of it right here. Okay, but there it is right here. It's like that. But now you have these trees here. I just shaded them on one side, you know, so it's like an overlay over this. I don't know, it looks like an 8 to me, or I don't know, like a snowman or something like that. You know, without a head. Okay, so, you know, on something like this, it's kind of, this one kind of goes like this. See, it's right here. It's kind of like this, but then see, this is coming in here, but there, I don't have like another, like a whole landmass coming across this whole thing. So it just, see, this comes in like this, like that. okay? But can you see that little, that 8 right here? Light and light down here. Instead of it being kind of your source of light up here, it's just, another area of light like that. So there it is right here. It's just kind of like this. So it goes like this, and it stops right there, and it goes like that. All right. Okay, let's do it right here. Let's just show you that, I don't know, whatever. It's like a little, well, it's not a figure 8, but it's got that 8 shape, okay? All right. I'm switching to another area of my paper towel. It's completely tattered now. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so right in here, we have a much larger area of sky, okay? So let's just fill in. Okay, now I'm using a clean area, so it's not so, mucked up with the tones. This is my much lighter gray again here. All right, so there's your sky. Here's my rocks right down in here. It's going to be a much wider kind of whatever field of light, more oval shape than kind of circular, I guess, because this is this the first one? Yeah, I guess this is the first portrait, or the first landscape format right here. The other ones were all portrait. Okay, so here it is right here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the area of light I've come across here with my tone, and then I've come across it like this down here. Now, I would add in, more with blue tones or whatever in my water, but let's just keep it really simple here for the sake of, what this kind of video is about here. Let's just go straight in with the black here. I'll skip the Marvy gray, okay? All right. Like this. I'm being a little bit more careful right here because I didn't add so much tone down, So this page is fairly dry right now. In other words, I don't want to get like a harsh mark of black in there or something like that. So I'm just using a little bit more touch doing this. In other words, I'm just, I'm pressing down a little bit lighter, but it's still very, very quick. All right, but there is your scenic lighting now, okay? I didn't color in everything down in the water or sky. I've retained some areas of light by simply not coloring in so much and filling those two areas in uniformly. But there you have it. There it is right there. There's my area of a little bit of a glow. And see this right here, it's skewed a little bit more instead of these two areas of like light, darker, light down here. See, I've taken this. It's a little bit more like that. So it's a little bit more like this, okay? See this area in here, because I've come into this area a little bit farther on this side. I wasn't really planning on that's just how it turned out. Well, I don't know. I guess it's right here and right down here. Let's do this little thing though, where this is a little bit more skewed from this direction right here, a little bit more of an angle. Here, I'll color this side in more right over here in the water, okay? Just so you can see how you vary that that simple lighting, light source and reflected light scheme. So see as I came in here a little bit more, and then let's come in here in the sky a little bit more this way. Might make it a little bit more kind of interesting that way, huh? Having this over here, but here's the same type of thing right here. You have your area of light over here. Okay, so it looks like this. So we have this kind of diagonal type of presence right here. And then you have that. But it's still the same type of thing. It's just this round thing up here, and lighting down there. So light source, reflected light right here. LS and reflected light and RL. Two areas of light like that, right? A little bit more broken up and not maybe as distinguishable. Here, let's make it more distinguished. Not that I'm just doing this as a point. I think this looks fine as is. I normally wouldn't break it off so much, because this is, it's not like a distant area from here to here or something like that, but just to kind of reinforce that idea of a little bit of separation in there like that. It's really being separated. Here's like 3 fingers of it like that. But it's kind of breaking up that one area in there just because it's water, and you know what I mean? So things like skies and water, I'd like it a little bit more streaky. We like to, streak in scenic stamping, right? All right, let's take a look at this. Oh, here's a little bit of a variation right here. I think you guys get the point right here. Sky, rocks, water, but here's a foreground image right here, right? It's a little bit different. There's no kind of foreground imagery right down in here like rocks, right? So how would this one vary from the others? Okay, so let's do it. Let's just do this really fast here. Okay, let's start off a little bit gray. Okay, let me show you like this. Okay, so clouds, don't color them all out, right? Go in like this. So we have a little bit of light and dark within our clouds like that. Okay, so there's that one area of light up there. Here's an area that's going to be a little bit dark because it's very convenient, because here's the rocks in here, and here's a really reflective area of water in this case. It could be anything, meadow, snow, whatever. It could be at the top of a cabin or something like that, okay? Going in there like so, okay. Now this rock down here could be obscured in shade or something like that, and that wouldn't be a bad thing to do. But I think it looks better, again, if you vary it a little bit more. Look at my paper towel. Look at my applicator, my expensive, what a life-changing blending tool here. All right, so there's my lighting like that. There's that separation right here. Here's light and light like that, right? Separated like this. Okay, light like that. Gone with the line there, like this, okay? Same type of thing. But now you have this down here. So what you do is you can just add in one more area. You can use, it's the bottom of your snowman. Okay, so this is like this right here. So you've just added another thing here. So you have this area of light separated by darkness or whatever. Then you have an area of reflected light. But here's another object down here. So here's, see how this comes across in here? And you have another area of reflected light. So all you've done is you've just added, you've gone like this with those two areas like that, but now you've had that third area like that. And that's where that is right there. And let's see it in, let's see if we can find another applet. Here's another one that I did in grayscale like that, and there's that exact same thing like that. Okay, but I mean, this one I really made it a little bit more pronounced by coming across here in gray, but see, right here, it's just this really light shade of gray right in here. See that? It goes like this, and then out, and then we've left that illuminated down there. So you see, I do it all the time. Let's see it in some colored pieces. Here's that piece right here with the, what was that called again, Linda? It's where that, little plants growing up from like after the forest fires. But here's this area of light. Here's this tree. It's not this one. This is the Art Foamies version of it right here, but an area of light like this. This is really similar to this lighting scheme right here. You see this lighting scheme right here? It's the exact same thing. It's light over here. It's a little bit more of a diagonal coming down here. And then I added in the light beams, yeah. But it's still this right here, right? See that light and reflected light like that. There it is right there. It's the exact same thing. So, like I said, you can do this on over and over and over, and it really, this is almost grayscale too, right here, because it was supposed to look like a charred, burnt out area here. But let's take a look at this one right here. Here's another scene right here. Can you see those areas of light and dark in here? There's the cloud with lightning right here. Here's an area of light right here. And then here's an object down here. So I've separated it right here. And that creates this area of darkness right here. Where's that mountain? You know, right here. Okay. Same type of thing. Except in the sky, we have a really definitive light source because this scene is much bigger. And then we're going down here. But see this area down here? This is the same thing right here. Here's this area of darkness up here, right? Or light right here. And then it goes dark. There's our objects right here. Illumination down here. Now this, where this gets a little bit, you know, this is a bigger area right here than this one. You see that, you know, that's up another inch, half inch or something like that up here. So I just kind of break that up a little bit. I come in here a little bit more like that, just so it's not this really definitive, just round spotlight. And that's the same thing that's happening up here a little bit. I just come in here a little bit more with some tone just to break these things up. But there it is right there. You know, done in kind of warmer tones or something like that. Glossy paper, yeah, Pat. So far, just because, I don't know, I just happen to have, I was probably demonstrating with the glossy cardstocks out at some convention. Okay, look at this one right here. Can you see the lighting scheme in here? This one's like really extreme, but my clouds are over here, right? So it's more like a strip of light. So it goes dark, light like this, okay? But then these areas down here, this is like this whole area of light like that. So it's like really extreme. I don't want to draw on the back of this one, but you know, this one's like this, okay? And it's like this with my meadow, but here's this area of light like this. And then this area right in here is kind of like this. You see that? I mean, he has the creek rolling through like that, but you see this area down here where this is darker and this is darker? This is just this right here. It's that light and reflected like that, like that. And then, you know, I shade under my trees, things like that in here, but it's still this same convention here in terms of, you know, basically two zones of light like that. You know, and taking into consideration some of the images that are used in here too. You know, I didn't have a great change of imagery in here, like, you know, like having a mountain or something like that coming out of my meadow or my grassy, you know, grassy hill slope here, but it's the same type of thing going on. And here it is right here too. There's my little area of light like that. It's a little bit broken up, but look at my area of light up here is a tiny little bit like that. And then you have this little area of light down here. See where it comes in like this a little bit with my shading. Then here's an object that's no different from, you know, your foreground ledge, but you just incorporate that into the lighting like that. So it's like this. So this is a little bit light and dark. Sky's light and dark. Lakeside Cove large, light and dark. Darker over here, lighter in here. This little area of this pond is a little bit lighter right here, darker right here. Beaver Dam, lighter, darker. And this big meadow down here is just this big thing like this, right? So there's area of light like this. This is kind of like an area of light like that. And it's like a little tiny one up here. So this one, all this one looks like is this right here. Here's that, and then it goes like that, and it goes like that. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So again, that's all I'm doing in just about every scene out there. So it's, you don't have to, I'm not reinventing really anything, for the last, I don't know, since I've been doing this, um, you know, 100 years. So there's different ways to approach these things too. I mean, this is like lighting, easy lighting here. There are people that use the stamps in very different ways. So some people don't do that, you know what I mean? And their pieces look fantastic to me. Like there's big areas of zones of really solid color, okay? And it flattens it out a little bit, but it doesn't make it more, less interesting to me. I love seeing that type of look because I tend to do things a certain type of way, and I love seeing variation. And a lot of people, their own kind of styles and techniques are, you know what I mean, are really refined, but just very different. So, yeah. Okay, so Pat, your computer is updated. I thought it was your internet, being in a rural area or something like that. I thought you said that you, I don't know, but that was years ago. So anyway, glad you're on though. Um, Grace Ethad I had not thought about doing grayscale pieces. Now, why didn't you think about doing that, Linda? I begged you to do that. I tell people to do this all the time. No one does, and I get it too. Linda B does, like the monster maps and all that. You know what I mean? The haunted stuff that looks better in black and white and stuff like that. But I get it though. But when you're doing black and white, you are practicing color though, because value, light and dark, is a significant part of color. But most people think in terms of what they call local color, okay? Okay, sky is blue, a tree trunk is brown or something like that. So a lot of times they're thinking that way. When you do grayscale pieces, there's a much heightened sense of lighting, texture, value, just because you don't have access to certain types of characteristics of color that we're thinking about normally. We're thinking about the hue of a given area, okay? But then it's like, well, I always do, I have people do that in my second class because when they go back to color after that, their pieces in terms of their lighting, I don't think it just stays with them from then on after doing those pieces, because then I see their pieces that they do after their grayscale pieces in class, and we're not talking about, you don't have to do 100 of these or something like that. You just do 2 or 3 of them like that. And they're good to go. They've got that pretty well ingrained. You know what I mean? They say that you do something like 3 times or something like that, and you really got it. Well, they got it in terms of their first pieces every time. But then it really reiterates and gets ingrained, 2 or 3 times like that. And then a lot of times what people were doing with their pieces in classes, they started tinting their pieces after that. Some people that wanted to do colors, if it was a meadow, they were adding their greens and things to this little area down here and seeing how that worked in conjunction with their grayscale pieces. So that was always really fun to see. Let's see. Yeah, diagonals, Linda, add kind of a sense of dynamics, visual movement to a scene, having things in a diagonal. Okay, so let me show you what you do. What do you do with structures, okay? Structures are a little bit different. We're not just keeping, just a general area of something light and dark. This one is going to be on the semi-gloss papers, so not glossy paper. Now remember, you're doing all this type of stuff too. You can do it with chalks, colored pencils, whatever media you're working with here. Okay, so with objects like this, again, this is like to the beginning stamper here. They're thinking about this cabin, and they often color it a uniform tone. Okay, I'm going to do brown here. Okay, over that whole thing, as opposed to thinking this as a three-dimensional object. So even if something was of a uniform color, it's going to have different values depending on, what direction the lighting is coming from. So what we're doing here, okay, so we have background mountain as an area, right? That'll be kind of my light source, or the lighter, is going to be, it's not a light source, but maybe there's going to be some reflected light coming in here. So here's one area of tone, but instead of just being separated down here by, blocking all this out with tone and darkness, going for that light and light like that, this is being taken into consideration just like this rock was, but it's a little bit more specific because there's a clear delineation between the side of a cabin rather than just this curved rock, and the rooftop right here. And then we have these trees here too, okay? But just in general, let's start off with that general kind of lighting scheme to begin with here, okay? So we'll go like this, right in the background, okay? Oh yeah, okay. So this is working on a piece of really absorbent semi-gloss paper. All right, so here, let me do something right here. Where is, I just had London Fog, my London Fog re-inker. Here we go. Okay, so we need to use more ink here because it's just, as I go like this, it's just absorbing my ink instantly, unlike the sealed off glossy cardstock, okay? So again, don't think that that's, I'm using re-inker fluid. It's not a different strategy here in terms of lighting. It's still the same thing. Okay, so let's go with our tree. Let's bring a little bit of lighting into that. Let's go on this mountain in the back. Uh-oh. I added a little bit, this thing is so inked up, it really toned that out, but some of that mountain out. Okay, so here I am going into my cabin area like this. Okay, I'm being careful. Here's that separation between the top kind of, oval area or whatever. I'm going to have my trees a little bit illuminated on one side. I'll have it interior lit in here, kind of. I'll do that more when I get into the darker tones like this. Okay, but anyways, here this comes around, starting to get there. Okay, and behind that rooftop a little bit more like that, okay? So, all right, now I toned out my mountain a little bit more than what I wanted to, but we'll still go with that little bit of light back there. But see, this area of darkness right here stops around that rooftop right there, okay? So we have this little area of light, and then we'll have a little area of light down here, and then this will be kind of a wider area down here because this is a wider, area right here, section. So this really looks like this, because this is the rooftop, okay? And here is the meadow right down here. So this is things, so see, these are the things right here. It's these spaces in between here that are defining your light. And this is, the areas around here are just kind of, framing off the entire scene. But here's those same things in here. Instead of just one big area, we have our cabin right here. So I'm breaking those two apart a little bit with some tone in between those two like that, okay? Now, I don't want my cabin to be just completely illuminated or something like that, so I'm putting a little bit of tone on the side of that cabin right there. So you see the rooftop's a little bit lighter, okay? Now, this is a really light tone right here, so let's get a little bit more tone in here like that. Let's go to all right, let's not skip the Marvy gray. It's a little bit of a darker gray here. Okay, let's see. I can't remember either what you named your piece. What piece was that, Linda? Okay, so let's go in right here. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see the difference in value by adding the Marvy gray here. It's a little, it's only like a, I don't know, I'd say that's like a 5% jump in value, if that, okay? But can you see that lighting here kind of developing a little bit more? Light, dark, light, dark, light. And it's, you know, darker down here, so it's darker on the, you know, all around. Okay, let's really, you know, get things defined more with the black right here. Okay, so, okay, let's see. All right, so here's the trees right here. Oh, this page is really, really solidly inked up. My black isn't really applying very quickly here because the page, the pulp of the paper is really soaked with all these other inks. Mostly that London fog, though. But, okay, let's go with this vignette around in here. Okay. No, I mean, this isn't the ideal, you know, toning tool. It's the ideal toning. It's a really good tool for doing very general areas of application. But I would come into my cabin or something like that with alcohol pens and whatnot, you know, just to get a little bit more variation happening, like some grayscale. If this was just, if I was just going to do grayscale on this and not tint it with any color. Okay, all right, we had to go for a narrower applicator right here. So on this brand of applicator, you can change the size of them, by the way. They call this the I think it's the Bounty brand of universal ink applicators, I think they call it. They sell them in packs of whatever, 12 rolls at Costco. Now, if anyone's on and is looking that up, stop. All right, so here's the black. You see what I did on the trees here? Darker, lighter, a little bit darker and lighter right here. This one right here is too narrow for this. It's not that universal of an applicator. Okay, so anyway. So this one, there's a little bit more going on just because there's more area, and, you know, we threw in that, you know, object in the middle of that area. But can you see this starting to develop right here? It's kind of light right there. I mean, this is really faint in here, but you can kind of see that area of light and light down here. But there's just, you know, so a little bit more nuanced of an area here because we have a three-dimensional cabin that we're trying to, well, we have an object that we're trying to depict as three-dimensional by just doing this side of it darker than the rooftop. Here, I'll go in with the, let's see, let's grab a couple pens here. All right, so here's just some alcohol pencil. Let me just color this in on the side of the cabin like that. Okay, that's a little bit too dark, but I don't know, you get the picture. They're really soaked in. They're really fast. Here's a little bit of a a lighter gray here. Yeah, that's really super. What happened? Why is that so dark? Yeah, okay, let me use a blender here. I'll just try to vary my rooftop there a touch. Okay, here, I'm using my blender pen. The blender pen's just removing some of that ink. It's coming right off. Okay, so anyways, here's a little bit of variation on that rooftop here. It's going a little bit from a little bit darker to lighter, you know, up top there. There's transitioning tones right here, but it's going from darker to lighter out there, just like my trees are, right? And you can do that for your trees here too. You know, just use your grayscale media. You know, colored pencils or something like that. And here's this little narrow tree that I couldn't get colored in. You can go to the side of this tree right here, or on the interior of this tree, and get a little bit more of a nuanced type of application of tone here. But I don't know, can you see that lighting in here now? It's just like this again. Here's the area of light, a little bit of a separation here. This little area in here, it's not really that defined super well, but it's just done with the memento right here, okay? But see how I just did it like that, just to make that rooftop stand out a little bit more against the background. If this whole area was light, it would tend to bring the mountain a little bit closer because there's not that kind of delineation right there. So the delineation right here is just this lightest of grays in here, you know, for that section right here. Down here, it gets a little bit more extreme, marvy green, gray, maybe some of the black or something like that. But again, it's this. Okay, so you can see where it really applies in so many different areas. And it can apply across different mediums like that. So, you know, Pat, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, because that was a really great comment that you made. But Pat was saying, hey, you know, there's different mediums out there. I don't see this as being, if we can do the same type of thing on a colored paper or something like that we haven't used before. So you introduce this on foil or something like that, where you're toning in with black brilliance ink or something like that. That's not an advanced technique. That's just doing the same type of thing, but on a different surface like that, you know, so we can do it on, not the printable vinyls, because that just dries instantly. I guess you could, though. You can do it with colored pencils or something like that, though. And again, it's the same basic concept right there. You're just applying different things in a little bit of a different method, depending on the paper or the media surface compatibilities like that. Some media just aren't compatible with each other, but you just have to know that. But that's the same thing as like a colored pencil, we know, you know, won't apply on something like a glossy card. So something too slick, you know, it's just not going to stick to it. But it doesn't make it a more kind of advanced technique. You just have to get, you know, more familiar with the media that's going to work on there. So like StazOns on your non-porous papers, you know, or something like that. Something that's going to dry on that type of paper. Okay, so let's take a look at something right here. You know, here's something right here that's just a light source, right? We don't, yeah, okay, there's no, you know, area down here below it, you know, so where are you going to do that kind of light and reflected light area? It could be on anything. Let's just do this one. Let's switch off to our new applicator right here. And let's do that same exact lighting scheme on something like this. Let's use a salvia blue. Okay. You can tap this into your pad or something like this. This just goes so much faster, okay? But, okay, there's these clouds down here. And can clouds be seen the same way as a grassy meadow or a rock? Okay, now I suddenly left grayscale because this one's stamped out in, you know, blue. So I'm going to use blue tones right here, okay? But how do you approach water and solid rock in terms of lighting, okay? Now these are supposed to be much more billowy, so it's not like this fine line delineation between some object and the background. They're all just billowy like little cotton balls or something like that. Well, how do you approach it? Well, you can approach it in the exact same way. Okay, it doesn't really matter when it comes to lighting, okay? So let's go like this, right in here. Okay, so you have your light source, but you know, it's reflecting off some of these clouds down here, right? I mean, you can color it all in, but then you wouldn't have this reflected light aspect of things. You wouldn't have lighting, you would just be coloring things. So let's go like this. And I really want to kind of emphasize this. Maybe I wouldn't go as dark as I'll go on this one, okay? I'm just going to do that for, you know, to make a point here. Okay, but let's go like this right here. So can you see that lighting now? That the moon is now suddenly more, I don't know, whatever, luminous. Like that. I'm looking for something. Oh, here's another lighthouse right here. Do you see this one right here? Light. And reflected light down here. Here's this thing going in like this. But instead of a tree, the lighthouse is in there. But let's go to the next tone of blue. Oh wait, this was the salvia blue that I used on there. Let's go to this blue right here. And, you know, again, I'm just kind of emphasizing this whole type of kind of lighting structure strategy right here. So just to show you how it look on something that's kind of less defined here in terms of different objects, okay? So go like this right here. All right, that was the number. Let me see. I thought here's my number 3 blue. I didn't think I had that anymore. Oh, it's completely. I don't know if you can see that. My blue here is completely dented in, useless in terms of making impressions from this, but it's still decent as a, you know, pad to get some ink off of. It's completely dry though. I don't know why. I don't know where that thing was. I guess I'm blind. Okay, so this is the Prussian blue right here. Think of this as kind of the equivalent of black in terms of this color scheme right here. Okay, but now, I would stamp something in the foreground here, some trees or something like this, but just in general, here's your kind of background here, okay? So it doesn't matter what something is, yeah, unless it's a cabin with a rooftop or something like that, but here's your, there's your lighting scheme again. Can you see it here? It's kind of going like this. And we have this area right down here. It's no different, you know. Here's rocks down here instead, but here's that same glow that you have going down here. On this one, I came into here with, yeah, it's like a gray or something like that, probably right up to here. We have some splashing waves that I wanted to kind of keep illuminated right there. But here's this area of light, just as the area of light is on a, you know, a completely different kind of structure or representative texture. Okay, something very hard and solid and something billowy and soft. It's the same thing in terms of lighting, you know, when it comes to lighting on there. So it, you know, it's an easy strategy, is one strategy that you can use for your lighting schemes out there. And, it just depends on, how much space you have. You might break it up a little bit, but then having like a gigantic area of light, like on that, that slimline card that I had that I was showing you right here. Here's a finished piece right here too. Okay, just working through my things, but working through my whatever my stamp sketches here. But here's this area of light. Okay, and see this area of light in here is kind of like this right here. It's more subtle, but see, I have this area of trees right here, so I've darkened in this area right here. So I've come in here a little bit darker, and I've come in here a little bit darker, just to break this up. And I came across here a little bit more, just to break up this one big area right here. But here it is up here, and here it is down here. It's real similar to I don't know, where was that real narrow one? It's not, yeah, I don't know, it's more like, it's a little bit, well, do I only work portrait? I mean, it's kind of like this one right here, okay, but this area right here, okay, so let's see, let's look at it like this. Let me go full size right here. So here's the ridge line right here. So here's an area of light like that. And then this area of light like this goes like this. But we have our shoreline right here, so it goes a little bit darker in like this. And then here's another tree line right here. And then here's the ridge line back up here, so it goes like this. And it goes like this. So I guess on this one right here, there's 4. But it's really just kind of taking one big area and breaking it up. See, and here, there's shadows in here because I have these trees in here, so that there's shadows underneath my trees like that. Okay, so I've just applied, shadow, and here's the water line right here too. So I've applied a little bit of separation like that. But here's this thing like this. It's a little... you can think about it like in terms of, like maybe a good term for it would be light blobs. Oh, look at this one right here. Can you see this right here? Where the lighting is? I mean, it's not that different. How is this one going, right? It's the Northern Lights, okay? But here it is right here, okay? So you know how we're normally working this from top to bottom like this, but in the Northern Lights type of thing, here it is right here, but it's this way. And here's the scene like this, right? But there it is right there, and like that. Boom, boom. You just turn it vertical if you're doing Northern Lights. Aurora Borealis, whatever, all right? So there it is. It's the same thing, just repeated over and over and over again. So, I don't know. Here it is right here. It's kind of going like this. Okay, so my light source is my waterfall, right? Okay, it's like this. And there's just streaks across here like this, but it's kind of gone like this. And this area down here, for the most part, is illuminated. Oh, and here's the rocks. Here it's a little bit darker, a little bit lighter like that. But then there's streaks down here, because I like my water to be a little bit streaky, so. Okay, Pat asked, would you do a gray tone with some color? Are you asking me, or is that like a theoretical one? So, okay, so here's grayscale right here. Let's do it. Whether, I don't know what you were asking, Pat. Let's add, okay, so let's add some color into this one here. Let's see, is that, that's my Prussian blue on there. Let's go like this, and, okay, let me just go in with this pad here. Okay, so let's add some color to this one. So let's color tint it, okay? All right, so we're coming in here like this. Okay, now here's the thing about, if you're going to color these things, you want to retain your lighting in here, so don't just color it all out. I guess you could, because it would still be lighter in here and darker out here, just for the fact that it's in the grayscale. But I would be careful. I would if you want to retain a little bit more of variation, then retain some of those lighter areas. But this is what it would look like kind of tinted. Now this is just tinting with one color so far. You can come and bring other colors into it. Now I'm not going to make this, I don't think, into like a sunset tone, full of yellow and golden light or something like that, in a grayscale piece. I guess you can try, but I think that would be kind of weird, because you'd have all those grays in there. Yeah, you maybe, I don't know. But here is just some blue tints in here, like so. Okay, let's go and add a little bit of a deeper blue in the, let's go with the light blue here. Kind of starting it in the darker area. Okay, so you can see what that tone looks like in there. I've done this, there's not a huge number of videos where I've done this before, but there's a fair share of this type of strategy on there. And let's just vary it a little bit. Let's go with, instead of all blue in the sky, let's add a little bit of color with, let's go with, let's go with a little bit of rosemary. Oh, let's not go with the rosemary. Look at that pad. It's basically like sand. Because I'm not going to throw this away because someone gave the suggestion. You just dig this off of the thing. I don't know what you use, a palette knife or something like that. Paint scraper or something. And then just replace that pad with this other type of foam. Oh my god, that's crumbly. Oh my god, that is a mess. Okay, here, let's try a little bit of orchid right here. Okay. Okay, let's bring this up here. Now, orchid's really light tones. You're not going to be able to see it over the top of gray very well, but I don't know. Can you guys see that little bit of a change in hue? Let's put a little reflection down in the water as well. All right, so seeing that like that? Yeah, let's bring it. Let's balance it off a little bit more coming from this side too. So I'm just kind of doing like a streak across, and I'm not toning in that whole area, just so it has that little streak of, that little wave of violet right in there, like so. Let's put a little bit over some of that blue down there. It's a different feeling, isn't it? It's a little bit more, I don't know. I don't know if it's tranquil or, oh, oops. It's a little bit more of like a contemplative. Yeah. One of the descriptions that I always remember, this one guy in my graphic design class would, he'd always say somber colors, not, describing, any person in particular, but their tonal range on their pieces a lot of times. So, yeah. Oh, goodbye to Linda D. I didn't see that. The two-headed sponge makeup applicator works really well for doing the skinny trees. Ah, got it. Sounds pretty good. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. Good morning, Glenda. We're all up late here. Oh my god, it's 1:09 right now. That's much later for some people if they stayed on here, so yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what time is this right here? Do people see that as, do you see that as, here, it's a psychological test. Do you see that? What time of day do people see that as? Do you see it as more like a morning, twilight? Is it a gray day, just in an area that has very short days and very little light, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, okay, that's lighting right there, right? You guys can you get I don't know who's on, but this is for people that are watching kind of on replay too, in terms of just some simple, basic lighting schemes right here. But if you just joined in, uh, Glenda, this was kind of an example of just we were breaking down kind of the different areas of light in terms of I think we termed it light globs. I don't know what was it, light blobs. But it's just kind of breaking down these simple lighting schemes in here. I was just saying, from a strategic standpoint, not just doing it in grayscale. This applies to colors, but we just did a lot of these in grayscale just to emphasize the point of the retention of light in certain areas. But a lot of times it just comes down to a couple different areas of lighting in there. But it's defined by the areas of darkness around them. So in something like this, we have rock, water, and, well, there's these rocks in here that, where there's a little bit of streak of tone across here. But you just have these little areas like this, and you just divide them up with a streak of color or darkness across it. And instead of just simply, say, coloring clouds, a mountain, rocks, meadow, you're coloring, but you're also lighting your compositions at the same time by just simply not addressing all those different objects or zones uniformly in terms of value, at least. Okay, so you have the retention of lighter areas, in this case the lighter tones of your paper that you're starting with. The strategies are a little bit different sometimes with super reflective foils, holographics, and things like that. I mean, these things could apply to that, but you have so much light coming off of those types of things because they're foils, you know what I mean? So I might not do certain things on those. I might just stamp imagery, and add a little bit of shading in it and not do anything like this up top because, light's reflecting off of it and it's glitter paper or something like that, so I don't want to block it all out with a bunch of tone. Sometimes, sometimes I might though. But again, these strategies do not just apply to grayscale, monochromatic, monotone, dye-based inks and cardstock here. They can apply to anything. You can do your piece in a matte cardstock and chalks or pastels, but the lighting, kind of strategies can still apply. And this is just one method of doing these things too. You don't have to do lighting in scenes, but I think just varying your objects a little bit in terms of some values, okay, and it doesn't have to be extreme going from very dark to very light like that, but just some variation can potentially increase the visual richness of a piece. It doesn't mean it always has to be employed to be a rich surface, but just in terms of the visual language of color or grayscale, color involves, when you break it down, it's the hue, it's the color of something, green, blue, whatever. The value, okay, which is light and dark. The intensity, which is bright and dull. I'm talking about the ranges here, and temperatures warm to cool. But to me, the most important one is value in there, because it at least when it applies to scenic stamping, because it entails lighting, okay? And in order to define lighting, it just means you simply, again, going back to the beginning of this video I just said, it simply just means not coloring everything out. It means retaining areas of light. So when we're lighting something and coloring at the same time, it takes a little bit, we're thinking about it. Okay, where am I going to leave a little bit more of a lighter area? So from a strategic standpoint, you're just thinking one step ahead, and as opposed to coloring everything in completely uniformly. But when it comes to the application of creating that lighting, it means doing less work, really, because you're not coloring in everything uniformly. So you're doing less coloring. That's one of the things, you know, that people think it's, oh my God, it's so complicated. But it just means don't color in so much, mostly with your darker tones, be it chalks, pastels, colored pencil, or whatever they're working with. And that's the thing that people tell me, or they have told me in the past, they have a hard time with lighting. Okay, not if they took my class or something like that, or they do a couple of these exercises, but if they do these exercises, and especially if you work grayscale, they will know when to stop. It's when people are doing, let's say, a bunch of different greens in here or something like that. I'm talking about when they're first starting off. They're just looking at it and they're coloring it in, thinking, oh, they have to fill up white areas on their paper, and that's just what they've become accustomed to, with more of an outline style of coloring activity, like a coloring book, where you're filling in fields of color, like geometric fields. And that's what outline stamps kind of, that's the activity that you do with that type of coloring. So it's just getting people to hold back a little bit with certain tones on their pieces, and then they're suddenly doing lighting. But that's where I have people do the grayscale black and whites like that, because if they're filling up with something with all black ink, they're going to know it, okay? But it's a good activity, especially if you're starting off, or if you just want to bone up on your kind of sensitivities towards lighting and atmosphere, because I think that's what lighting does in a scene, on a card, anything like that. It could be, it's not just scenic stamping either. If you have like a word stamp, or quotes or something like that, and if you want to emphasize them, or just any type of object up in your cards, okay? Word stamp, let's say if you're stamping out a birthday cake with some candles or something like that, it looks really cool just on a white piece of paper. You color it in, candles are yellow or something like that. But if you darken in a little bit of area around it, it's going to look like those candles are suddenly illuminating the card itself, and they'll look like a source of light within that card. Or if you have a word stamp that says happy birthday, if you tone in the area around it and make it a little bit darker, it looks like those words are illuminating. So it brings a little bit of extra emphasis to anything you want. So you can say happy birthday up here, not over the top. I'm talking about a blank piece of paper. So you can say happy birthday up here, and you can have a birthday cake down here. But if you have this tone going around it like that, it would look like this happy birthday is like illuminating down up top, and you have this birthday cake down below that's, being illuminated by illuminating that area of your card with the candlelight or something like that. So, it could be with anything. It's not just, trees and clouds and lakes and rocks. All right. Anyways, so it's 3:10 a.m. there for Tina. Wow. Thanks to everyone for joining in here. I really felt like I had to get some inky. See this? I had to get my inky fingers in here. I needed my some of that ink to get into my bloodstream and whatnot. To penetrate the pores and to get my fix of some inks and whatnot. Look at what we did here. So I didn't do these ones right here tonight, and these ones all these scenes were already stamped out here, okay? So I didn't stamp any of them out, but look at this. We toned in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces like this. All, they're in grays. Well, this one's not grayscale, but it's monotone pieces like this. This one has a little bit more color, but I'm talking about These are really fast to do, and I think really effective. And I think that's, I think that's kind of a cool look to these pieces right here. If you're doing it on a semi-gloss like this one too, you don't have to just tone it in with, you know, liquid media. You can use your colored pencils on here, which I love doing on the semi-gloss cardstock. It looks more glossy though, doesn't it? And it's a semi-gloss though. Okay, so that is a little bit, I mean, this is like much glossier right here. See that? It's like more mirrored. This is more satin-like right here. But you can do your coloring on here with a combination of wet and dry media, like colored pencils or whatnot. But I don't know. I also just like grayscale too. Or you can embellish these too. So a lot of times I would come in here with my white pigment ink and add a kind of a foggy look to these or something like that. Highlighting with a white paint pen or something like that, as an extra little embellishments on there. Crisp and soft, white embellishment on there. So we're going darker and darker and darker. You can come into your lighter areas with your light media as well for more detail and textural variation. But anyway, this video is all about, where it turned into all about kind of, I don't know, easy lighting strategies or whatnot, kind of based on a previous video that we did, but we're just kind of expanding on it a little bit more. But like I said, these are really fast. I mean, these grayscale toning from start to finish, I mean, on these quarter page cards using like a gray and a black or something like that. Even this larger piece right here, I'm talking about, it can take 2 minutes or something like that. It can be really, really fast and you're just done with the the toning process or whatever, unless you keep adding more and more color to it after that. But I think in terms of just a finished, lighting statement and everything like that, if you like the look of black and white and grayscale, black and white movies, black and white photography, whatever, which I love, pieces can be done in a hurry. Or you can just do them once in a while. Do them once every, 2 years or something like that. And it'll really kind of, like I said, it really sensitizes your kind of, it hones your sensibilities for lighting in things. And then sometimes you'll go and you'll see those types of things too. Just everywhere you are, you'll see lighting variation on various objects in terms of visual sense, as opposed to thinking about things more in terms of what color is grass and then coloring it in accordingly. You'll see this more as a varied range of values going, in changing values in light and dark or something like that. When you look at a scene or somewhere you're driving somewhere, you'll see the differences in value across a field of grass, uniform grass in terms of a texture, but the values on it are different like that. No, when I'm driving around, I'm not saying, oh, look at that change in values or something like that. But I think that on a subconscious level, it definitely kind of ingrains a little bit more. So anyways, yeah, highly recommended. Whether you do it or not, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of people don't like working in grayscale or something like that, but you can see it as an exercise, or you can see it as kind of just the foundation for some added color if you want to add it in there. So anyways, all right, let's see what Laura's got. Might watch the replay. The grayscale looks really good, but the added subtle color warms the scene up very nicely. Yeah, why not? And you can do it in, one of the things I like doing on these ones too is like adding, by the way, I have a bunch of distressings in a shopping cart right now. re-inkers, but I have the antique linen and walnut stain re-inkers in a shopping cart right now that I need to pull the trigger on. But like these two colors over the top of these right here, it really gives this really cool, warm, kind of antiqued, I wouldn't call it like a sepia print looking piece because you have all this grayscale underneath it, but it gives kind of, it's more in that spirit of a sepia print, you know, kind of an old-fashioned looking print, which is one of my favorite things to do with these scenes like this, is to add that tone in there. But like I said, these things would look, you know, much more kind of expanded in terms of a textural range with the white pigment ink added in there. So everything's fairly crisp right here. I mean, there's soft additions of color and whatnot, but I like to add in some additional probably, oh, let's do that on one of these pieces here. I'm not going to do it on all of them, but I'll just show you what I'm talking about here in terms of these different types of looks. Let's do it on this one right here. I almost feel like adding in some light beams into this one. But okay, let's see. Let's do this right here. Okay, so just white pigment ink, okay, on a cotton ball. Let's get that squished down. And let's go for a little bit of an expanded textural range. So you're adding this in kind of in the illuminated areas, because this is white ink. If you know, you put it over here, it'll really stand out quite a bit. I mean, which you can do, but you just have to kind of add it in some other areas. Otherwise, kind of from a visual sense, sometimes it doesn't really make sense. Okay, so this illumination on the objects right here. And let's throw that little solo canoeist in a little bit of kind of fog as well, because it stands to reason if there's kind of this low-line fog on there. Our little subject matter would also be in that same kind of element or lighting. All right. Okay. Okay, so you see that right there? You know, it's just changing that a little bit. So on the interior, I think I just lose my focus here? My camera's focus. It can't grab it again. It's trying to grab it here. Okay, here we go. But see that little textural range right in there. So what you do is you're just, you know, you're going from your interiors right here. This is what you're doing on the interiors right here. You're just coming from the illuminated interior like this, and you're working out this way. So this is like dark to light in here, right? From the outside to inside. And then when you're working with light ink, white, you're just working this out there like that, okay? You know, not everywhere, but against objects usually. So that it is right there. Real simple to do. It's a simple concept, okay? And in terms of an application, it's not hard. For me, when I'm teaching people how to do these types of things, let's say this is a green grass or something down here, or okay, or if when they're doing grayscale, okay, so they're bringing in their gray tones or something like that. When they switch off to the black ink, I just tell them don't come into this area right in here, or just come into it very lightly like that, okay? And they, you know what I mean? They're good to go. They're, you know, I'm not like constant. You know, when I was doing this type of thing, everyone was pretty good with it. I didn't have I never had anyone just like black it out or something like that, you know, because that's the whole concept of it. So they're very conscientious of it. It takes them like, I don't know, a few minutes to get it down. And then, like I said, a lot of people were, this is the card concept where they're just cranking them out and getting like multiples in there. Like I said, sometimes people would come up with like, you saw how fast you can get these, the coloring down like that, or the toning part of it down. And yeah, that's where a lot of times where I had people just, I don't know, 4 or 5 cards or something like that before we got on to the next kind of assignment in that class. But yeah, because what they would do is they would, a lot of times in the first class, they would have stamped out a bunch more compositions or something like that. So they just wanted to finish them off like that. Yeah, try it, Tina. If you have any, kind of issues, let me know. Work those tones. Don't jump into the black real fast, Work the grayscale first and get a good established kind of area with it. Establish your kind of lighting scheme in terms of where your light is and where your kind of reflected light is, if that's what it represents, these different zones in here. And then when you move into your darker tone, just stay a little bit more perimeter oriented. Take it in there if you need to. And if you think, oh my gosh, I should use more of the gray, then just go back to the gray and use more of the gray as opposed to coming in more with the black, or something like that. Just go back with more gray and then go back with the black again on there. Okay. All right. Anyways, have some fun with that grayscale. Think, think of, Casablanca, and as opposed to, say, The Wizard of Oz, or think of, I don't know, Ansel Adams in terms of photography, film noir, old-fashioned, cinema. Don't think so much like IMAX, IMAX movies. Think of, don't think Gone with the Wind, Citizen Kane. All right, folks. Have a great rest of evening or afternoon, wherever you are. And, hopefully we'll see you in the next video. This was fun here. I really enjoy doing some black and white pieces. They look real silvery to me, also when you do them in grayscale like this. So, yeah, and then tint them a little bit. See what you think. All right, folks. Thanks again. And hope to see you on the next live stream sometime.